I don't know what you've been told.
I don't know what you've been told.
Israeli apartheid's getting old.
Israeli apartheid's getting old.
Boycott, sanction and divest.
Boycott, sanction and divest.
Put apartheid to the test.
Put apartheid to the test.
Ethnic cleansing is a crime.
Ethnic cleansing is a crime.
Israel does it all the time.
Israel does it all the time.
Occupation, it must end.
Occupation, it must end.
Palestine must breathe again.
Palestine must breathe again.
Puma, our sportswear brand. With apartheid, it does stand.
With apartheid, it does stand.
Segregation is no gain.
Segregation is no gain.
Sporting kids can use their fame.
Sporting teams can use their brain.
Football players lend a hand.
Football players lend a hand.
Time to choose another brand.
Time to choose another brand.
Palestinians can be free.
Palestinians can be free.
From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Justice.
Justice.
Equal rights.
Equal rights.
Boycott Puma. Boycott apartheid. Free Palestine.
I just want to acknowledge that we're protesting today on stolen lands of the Yagara and Turrbal people, and just mention that it's crucial to recognise that we're protesting on stolen land when we're here protesting and boycotting Puma, who support the stealing of Palestinian land. I love football. So much that for my birthday a couple months ago, my brother just said, got me a book about it. The title of the book is Football. I haven't read it yet, but I want to read you the note that he wrote for me in the cover. Here's to the game we entertained ourselves with on those long summer days in the paddock across the road from our house in Gaston Green. No teams, just a ragged old pair of goalie gloves, a ball, and the two of us. While I was in Palestine in 2019, I was taking photos of graffiti on the Israeli apartheid wall in the Palestinian city of Bethlehem for my PhD research. I traced the wall for hours as it cuts through the city, separating families from each other, farmers from their land, and Palestine from Palestine. I traced it all the way into Ida refugee camp, where Palestinian refugees from the 1948 Nakba continue to survive and resist. I was unsure of my place there. I wasn't from this camp. I didn't know anyone there. Some kids at the camp looked on intrigued. I tried to chat with them, but my broken Arabic didn't get us too far. I walked past a group of kids playing football in one of the narrow alleyways. A miskicked ball landed at my feet, so I communicated in a language that we all knew. I started juggling the ball performatively, pretended to dummy the nearest kid, and then passed it to him. He laughed and kicked it back to me. We played until some older kids came along and persistently offered to buy me a drink as they inquired about how I ended up there. Nablus by way of Australia. It was a long journey back. In 2014, a group of Palestinian cousins were playing football in Gaza. They were enjoying the clear, sunny afternoon, kicking around on the beach, when they were targeted by an Israeli warship. 2 successive explosions, and 4 of the kids were dead. Ismail Bakr, 9 years old. Zachariah Bakr, 10 years old. Ahed Bakr, 10 years old. And Mohammed Bakr, 11 years old. By sponsoring football teams in Israeli settlements, Puma sponsors exactly this brutal violence that Israel used to maintain their settler project. But just like Adidas did, Puma will back down from this sponsorship if we push hard enough. If we keep pushing for a Palestine where its kids can kick a football from the river to the sea.
Boycott Puma! Boycott Puma! Boycott Puma!
Boycott Puma!
Boycott apartheid!
Boycott apartheid!
I can't help but think of the children suffering, the women hurt, the artists changing figures of art, activists arrested, children traumatized. street massacre. This story doesn't end. Is there nothing on that land that is worth living for? I'm not asking you to take political sides. I'm not asking you to support a specific religion. We're just asking for the freedom of people in Palestine. We're asking for children to be able to exercise their everyday normal activities that we all take for granted. Thank you.
So we're here today to talk about rugby league, Puma sportswear and the apartheid state of Israel. It's an unusual combination. I want to start with the footy. I'm actually a footy fan. Now, for decades, it was the entrenched view of the managements of football in Australia that racism was not a problem in the game. Or if it was a problem, it wasn't their responsibility. But in recent times, in football codes across Australia, brave Indigenous players and their allies on the field, in the clubs and on the terraces have spoken out against racism in football. And they've forced the administrations of the game to recognise, to acknowledge and to own the racism in all the codes. Preston Campbell, Greg Inglis, Tyrone Peachy, Cody Walker, Latrell Mitchell, Josh Adokar, and in the UK, Jermaine Coleman have called out racism on and off the field. As a result of the leadership of these players, the political landscape of rugby league in this country has changed. The Queensland Rugby League and the NRL now have reconciliation action plans. They have implemented anti-racism programs in the clubs. On the face of it, the NRL is proud of this diversity and respectful of those players. So now we come to the issue of Puma sponsoring our state of origin team. You take money from a company associated with the apartheid state of Israel, a state that in its supremacist views on Palestinians, in its segregationist practices, and in the extreme forms of violence it uses for racist ends. So we say to the management of rugby league, you cannot sincerely claim to be standing up to racism while accepting sponsorship from a multinational corporation that profits from this supremacist apartheid horror. Racism is racism. If it is unacceptable here in Australia, it is unacceptable in Palestine, just as it was unacceptable in South Africa 30 years ago. We say kick the racists out of rugby league. We don't want the dirty money of Puma. Every sponsorship dollar from Puma helps to normalise a situation where the dreams of Palestinian kids to play sport safely and without fear are on a daily basis crushed by military occupation, crushed by military siege, crushed by the poverty and statelessness of life in refugee camps around that region. Rugby league must not be a party to this massive injustice. We call on the Queensland Rugby League and the New South Wales Rugby League to show the courage of a Latrell Mitchell, to show the courage of a Josh Adokar or an Adam Goods, and give Puma the boot. Let's boot Puma out of the game, out of the code, and we will not support it as a code of rugby league in this country. Thank you.